Welcome to week 12 of Culinary Arts 1 in continuing education at George Brown College. My name is Chef Frank Tony Guzzo. Welcome. So today, you're going to do a beautiful stuffed roast leg of lamb. You'll see that I'm going to show you how to truss it up with this uh, butcher twine, as we call it. And we'll make a nice little mint sauce for it. And then also how to roast cauliflower. You'll see this is the best way to eat cauliflower. Most people just cook the cauliflower in water until it's tender and then whatever, maybe serve it with a bit of butter or something. You'll see that when you roast it, you actually concentrate the flavors, and it's excellent. We're going to make a Polonaise sauce or a Polish sauce for it. You'll see that we're going to boil eggs, then we're going to chop them up and we're going to fry them in some butter. It may sound weird, but it tastes delicious. So let's get started. Now, this is our lamb that you're going to get. I'll talk about that afterwards, so I'll just put it to the side. But first we have to do the filling for it. And I have some finely chopped red peppers. I kept the sticker there just to remind you. Make sure you remove it before you cut it. I've got some onion chopped up, some garlic, some Dijon mustard, very nice mustard, and some goat cheese. Again, this is going to be like when we did the pork steaks in week 11. It's more of a seasoning. You'll see that it's going to make a nice mixture. And then I have some chopped up thyme, rosemary, and parsley together. And that's your basic filling for this. Now, I'm just going to heat up my oil a bit. I got a bit of olive oil in there. While we're doing that, with the string that we need, you're going to need enough. So what you do is grab your string like this and pull it till you have a good wingspan. You're going to need about that much. Now, don't worry if you didn't cut enough, that's fine. You can always tie some onto there. You don't have to throw that piece away and keep going. All right, so there is my string right there. I'll just keep it there for now. I'm just going to put in a piece of onion here. See when it gets hot. Now this is more of a flavoring rather than the stuffing for the lamb. You'll see that it's not going to be, again, like that pork steak where you're going to see the actual stuffing in there. You will see the onion and the pepper in there, but for the most part, it's just going to blend in. That was, I guess, a bit of water in my oil. All right, so we have our onions are hot, so let's get going. Again, you hear that nice sizzle. That's what you want to hear. You can put the peppers at the same time. And again, all we want to do is wilt these down. You don't really have to brown them. All right, we're about halfway cooked here, so now I'm going to add my garlic. I'm going to add my herbs to this. And right away you smell them. They're just delicious. Now, at this point here, I'm just going to let this cook for another minute and then turn it off. And I'm going to add the mustard and the goat cheese in there with no flame on it, simply because all you want to do is melt that stuff in there. All right, so that's good like that. I'm just going to turn it off. Now, I'm going to add some Dijon to that, about a tablespoon, and about half a cup of goat cheese. And you'll see that the goat cheese is a soft cheese to begin with, and it just blends in nicely. You'll see that if you put more goat cheese in here and melt it down and let this mixture cool and serve it with crackers, it's one of the best little appetizers that you get. Okay, you see how we got a nice creamy mixture in there. I'm just going to add a bit of salt and pepper to that. See how it just melts? And again, I have no flame under there. And already that tastes really nice. I'm just going to put it in this bowl here. I just want to cool it down a bit. Let me just put that to the side. Now, this is your roast leg of lamb. All right, this is New Zealand. It's a nice young tender lamb. You'll see that these animals are maybe 2 to 3 months old before they go to market. Very sweet, very nice meat. A lot of people turn their nose up at lamb simply because, especially the older folk, simply because they're used to mutton. And mutton is an adult lamb, and it is more gamier. It does have more pronounced flavors, but this one here is very, very mild, very sweet meat. So I'm just going to take it out of there. Now, this is what we call a ready roast. This is boneless already. This netting on there is actually heat proof. So technically what you can do with this now is just maybe poke some holes in like I am, shove some whole pieces of garlic in there, rub it nicely with all kinds of spices, sit it in a roasting pan, and there you go. All right? But what we want to do is open it up. So first you got to take the netting off of it. Okay, and just be careful. This stuff does tend to spring back at you. And again, this netting is heat proof. You don't have to remove it if you're not going to do what we're doing. Now with this here, this is a leg of lamb. I'm just going to turn it over. You'll see it actually looks like someone already took a piece off of it. That's not the case. What that is this part here is where the hip bone is. So this is the part that attaches to the main body of the lamb. Right down here, all right, actually, my fingers go right through it there. That's where your leg bone is. And right there is where the knee area is. You'll see that maybe about 10, 15 years ago, they started selling the lamb legs like this. Before that, they included the lower half of the leg from the knee down. But the popularity of lamb shanks denotes that now they cut that off and sell that separately as lamb shanks. So if you ever hear the word lamb shank, what it is from the knee down to the ankle part of the lamb. Now, what we want to do is open this up. And this part here that you see with where the thigh bone was is a good indication. What you're going to do is just rest your knife on there. And what we're going to do is cut parallel to about here and open it up just like a book. All right? So keep your knife on that part there. And don't go up or down with the knife. Try and keep it flat. And again, just open it up like that. And there you go. All right, so now, for lack of a better word, you have almost like a rectangle there. All right, now we do want to take some fat off here. You'll see that at the top and at the bottom, there's little globules of fat. We want to take those off. All right, why? Just so it's not so greasy, okay? You want to leave some fat on. Again, it does its job of melting and keeping the meat moist. So that's fine like that. All right? Now I'm going to turn it over. And you see here where it's thinner, where you can see the meat through there. I'm going to leave that alone. But over here where it's thicker, again, don't try and cut off too much at once. Just like that. Okay? Again, you want the meat on there, excuse me, you want the fat on the meat because it melts away, all right, and keeps the meat moist. Okay, just do little bits at a time. By the way, with the string, if you don't have butcher twine, I mentioned it before when we were roasting the chicken, you can buy them at the hardware stores and that, but make sure it is cotton, not nylon. Okay? Just a bit there. See, I'm not really wasting any meat over here. It's just, if you don't go down too deep and just saw like you're sawing a piece of bread, you'll do fine. Now, see that area there is fine like that. I'll just go like that. Some people do find it overwhelming, but again, if you just break it down into little pieces that you do, don't think, oh, I got to do the whole thing. Just Divide it up into 4 pieces, let's say, not cutting it, just eyeballing it, and then just go from there. And we're almost done. Just a bit in the center here. All right, and that looks good on the outside. So that's going to be your outside. That's going to be your inside. Now, remember, some disposable salt and pepper, because your hands are contaminated after you throw that away. All right, I got a bit of mustard left. I'm just going to put it in there. Don't want to waste it, just a bit. And just rub it. Now, with your filling, all right, you'll see that you're going to try and put it all in, but don't be very minimalistic, because when you go to roll it, it's just going to squeeze out. I'll show you what I mean. All right, so we have our string here. Now, with your filling, spread it on like you're buttering toast. All right, some people do get a meat hammer and try and flatten it out, but you'll see the way we closed it or opened it, it's going to be very easy, okay? All right, we'll still use that. We don't waste things. What you can do is put that in a container and freeze it for next time. But what you're going to do now is just gently from this side here, just roll it over till it gets back its shape, just like that. All right? Now, with the string, first of all, don't let it drop on the floor where you're going to be stepping on it and that. Keep it to the side. If you're right-handed, the string should be on your right hand. If it's left-handed, it should be on your left-handed. Now, with this here, what you're going to do is slide it under like that. And you see how on my left-hand side, I just got a little piece. Now, I'm about an inch, inch and a half in. Tie it like you're tying a shoelace. And then put it on again, the knot on top. And then hold the string tight and push down with your 2 fingers. And you'll see that that tightens the string. And there you go. And you see how I have a bit of string left. Don't cut it off. You want that there. Now, what you're going to do is, again, keep your string taut. Go over your thumb to over your pinky, like that. So you're like that. And then just twist your hand. So what you've created was a little loop or lasso. And then just go down a bit. And then now what you do is just go back and forth like that. You don't tie any knots in that. You just tighten it up. What we're trying to do is make it a uniform shape so it roasts evenly. Now, same thing over your thumb, over your pinky. Twist it so you created that loop. And there you go. Okay, you see I do have stuffing coming out. I'm not worried about it at all. All right, so you just go on like that right to the end. All right, maybe one more. Again, if you run out of string, no problem. Cut another piece and just tie it to the end. Now, here, just gently roll it over and go at the end there. You don't have to go under each piece of string, maybe every second one. All right. Now gently roll it over again. And then again, go to the end there. And where you started, where you had that little piece of string hanging off, you use that to tie off your string now. And there you go. Cut off the excess string. Now, this is almost ready for the oven. Don't worry about this stuff here. Now, I'm just going to go rinse my hand and get my roasting pan. In the roasting pan here, I have carrot, celery, and onion. Remember when we roasted the chicken? That's called a mirepoix. That just keeps the lamb off of itself. I'm going to put it in there. Okay, just like that. Now, don't worry about your hands. They're still dirty. Smear it on the outside of the lamb. Okay, just like that. You don't have to oil the outside then, but this here you'll see gets penetrating in there. See, the idea too is if you want to do this part here, up to this part here, up ahead of time, then let it sit in the fridge for a couple hours, even overnight. What happens is the mustard and the enzymes in the goat cheese attack the meat and give it such a more flavorful product and also more tender product. In fact, with this here, when we had the lamb opened up like that, rub it all around with this mixture and put it in a baggie overnight. Next day, just without tying it up, barbecue it, and you get a lovely dish too. Now we just go wash up here. All right, now this is going to go in the oven for about 90 minutes at 400 degrees. Now, if you want it well done, that's what you want to do. If you want it medium rare, and this is lovely medium rare, this is about 1 hour in the oven at 400 degrees, okay? So into the oven it goes. Now here I have a head of cauliflower, and what we want to do is break it up into about bite-sized pieces. Don't make it too small or they shrivel up on you. Okay. Now you'll see, especially in the summer when it's local cauliflower, it is very cheap, very plentiful. You'll see this is a delicious dish. Also, I like the core here. Most people throw it out. It's very nice on its own. Now, for the roasted cauliflower, very simple. Roasting pan, like that. A bit of salt and pepper in there. Some people also put a bit of cayenne in there. I've made it also putting a bit of curry powder in there. When I do that, I don't make the polonaise part of this, but it's just lovely on its own. Okay, now just enough olive oil so that it will glisten. Okay, you don't have to make it sopping. Okay, and just toss it like that. And if you see that the cauliflower is shiny like that, perfect. Okay, spread it out. Now this goes into the oven at 400 degrees, and you'll see that it will get a touch toasty. All right, and that's, you know, that it's done. Now for our polonaise sauce or Polish sauce for our cauliflower, we have a bit of lemon that we'll be utilizing afterwards, a bit of chopped parsley, and just some regular breadcrumbs. All right, now with the eggs, we have to boil them first. A good rule of thumb with eggs is that if you hold them like this and go back and forth, and if you feel something hitting the tips of your finger, that means it's an older egg. Again, it's still a good egg, but it is an older egg. So what we do there is, if we just boil them as they are, you'll see that they're very hard to peel. So what we'll do is just add a splash of regular vinegar to that. And what that does is make the water a bit acidic, and what it'll do is keep the shells nice and hard. Now, the way I like to boil eggs, I started off with cold water, put the eggs already in there. When it comes up to a boil, go exactly 10 minutes, and you have the perfectly cooked egg. All right, cool it down a bit, and then we'll peel them, and you'll see how easy they are to peel. While the eggs are boiling for my polonaise sauce, I'll just make a simple mint sauce here. Now, I have some malt vinegar in here. Malt vinegar comes from barley. You'll see that the plain vinegar is nice for some things, but you want more depth, more robustness in there. So I have that. I have a bit of sugar in there and a bit of water. And the idea here is to reduce it by half and almost make a syrup, or what we call in the culinary world a gastrique, a bit sweet, a bit sour. And then when I'm finished with it, I have some lovely mint that I just julienned up. Okay, and again, you pick that like that and just julienne it up. I'm going to put it in right at the end, and you'll see that you'll get that burst of freshness. I don't want to add it in while it's simmering, simply because it turns black. All right, so I'll keep that in the fridge until that's ready. I'll just do this on the side. I'll show you after when it's reduced. And we're back to boiling our eggs for a Polonaise sauce for our cauliflower. So we just got a bit of time, so I'll just clean up a bit while that's happening. Now our eggs have come up to a boil. Okay, not too rapidly or else they smack together and crack. And we'll go 10 minutes from here. All right, and then we'll just cool them down and they should be ready for us. Now our eggs are ready for a Polonaise sauce. So now I'm just gonna drain them and cool them down a bit. Now our eggs are still a bit warm, but you can still peel them, and you'll see that because we added that touch of vinegar, it just peels very easily. All right, you'll see also, you know that you overboiled them if it has a black ring around the yolk. That's because the yolk has iron in it and the egg white has sulfur in it. And when you boil them too long, there's a reaction that happens and you have iron sulfite, and that's that like a sulfur smell, like when you light a match or so. So you try not to do that, especially if you're going to use the eggs for egg salad sandwich. You don't want that unpleasant odor in the air. You see this one here that I'm peeling now, just an example of an older egg, but still a good egg. Can you see how it looks like somebody already nibbled at it? That's because as the egg gets older, it starts to evaporate out of its own shell, believe it or not. And that's why, you know, when you rock it back and forth like that, that's the egg yolk sloshing back and forth. I'm just going to keep these in a bit of cold water for now. I'm just checking on our cauliflower. You see how it's getting toasty? Another 5 minutes and we'll be fine there. All right, and believe me, it tastes good just like this. So I'm going to put it back in the oven for another 5 minutes. I just want a bit more toast points on it. A reduction here, this is our malt vinegar with a bit of sugar and some water in there, has reduced by half, and that's about where we want it to be. See, it does have a bit of clinging to the spoon. That's all you want. You don't want it thick. All right, so I'm just going to keep that to the side, and when I'm almost ready to make the sauce, I don't want to make it till the lamb is ready, because if I put in the mint now, it just turns dark on us. I like it to be still bright green. So that's that for that. Now here's our roasted cauliflower. I'm just going to put it in a bowl, keep it warm. I'm just going to put it in my warming oven and just keep it warm for now. So now we can make the Polonaise sauce for the cauliflower. I have my eggs here. Now, you can chop them up with your knife, but you see it's messy. Some people actually use a cheese grater. But what I like to do with this is get a piece of parchment paper like that. If you have a little roasting rack at home, this works ideally. All you have to do is push it through. Okay, don't like grate it like that. Just push through, and you have nice chopped eggs. You'll see if you do it with a knife, the yolk tends to break up in that. So, just like that. Then we can make the rest of the Polonaise sauce now for the cauliflower. So I'm just going to move that to the side here. Now, with this here, we need some butter for this. And what I want to do is brown my butter, make it beurre noisette. Okay, remember hazelnut, that hazelnut flavored butter? So we'll just let that melt. It doesn't take long. This is a very quick sauce to make. The eggs are cooked. the breadcrumbs are cooked. All we're doing is blending all the flavors together. But I find if you brown your butter a bit, it just tastes a heck of a lot better. All right, so soon we should get that sizzling to stop. And when it stops, it'll start to turn a bit brown. And that's your burn with it. Then we can start cooking. If you keep, I find if you just melt the butter and it has that milk moisture in it, it makes the breadcrumbs clump up on you. You see how we got that nice gentle sizzle going now? Now you get the foam in there. And underneath there, the pure butter will start to brown a bit. See, just rock it back and forth and you get that beautiful color and that beautiful aroma too. Now here, see my parchment paper? I'm just going to put it in. Just move it around a bit. Bit of salt and pepper in there. And when I'm doing eggs, I just like to add a pinch of nutmeg to it. You don't have to, but it just brings out more flavor. Right, just like that. Now with the breadcrumbs, you don't need much. For this amount here, about 2 tablespoons. All you want it to do is bind everything together. If you put too much in, all you wind up with is a paste. There you go, just like that. Put in some parsley. And a little squeeze of lemon in there. Not too much. And that's it. That's your Culinary sauce for your cauliflower. I'll just keep that warm over there. Now, here's our roast leg of lamb. With this here, you see how that all the extra filling that we rubbed on the outside caramelized in that. I'm just going to let it sit there for about 5 minutes before I slice into it. This is ready to go. It says in the book that we're not going to do it, but with that nice mirepoix at the bottom, do exactly like that we did with the roast chicken. Put in some liquid in there, a bit of flour, and you have a nice little sauce. Or if you still have sauce left over, you know, some demi-glace or even some of that chicken stock, throw it in there, or sorry, the chicken sauce, throw it in there. So I'm just going to let that rest for a couple of minutes. And this is our mint sauce. You see how much I reduced it. Throw in some mint. Right. And just mix that around. All right, so what we have is almost like a glaze. And you'll see that right away it's going to get infused by the mint. All right, so that's ready. Very simple. Again, you just let it reduce slowly. And then at the very end, just throw in your cut mint. Now we'll just take care of the roast leg of lamb. All right, what I'm going to do is just turn it over gently. And I'm just going to cut the string with my scissors. Okay, it comes out a lot easier this way. The string is so saturated in juices and in some lamb fat that it's very hard to cut with a knife. So just gently roll it over again and just pull it off. All right, and then we can slice this. This has been in for an hour, and you'll see in the interior part here, it's between medium rare and medium. I'll just slice off some of it. Okay, you see how I like mine about medium rare. If you cook tender meat too much, you'll see that it tends to taste too dry and tasteless. Okay, and try and slice it as thin as possible. All right, so we'll put that on a plate. We'll just put a bit of the mint sauce along the side. With that infusion. Just a couple of pieces of cauliflower. Now just a bit of Polonaise sauce on top. All right, so there's your roast leg of lamb. And again, you see how you can't really see the fillings in it. Cauliflower Polonaise with a bit of mint sauce on it. Thank you for taking this course. This ends our Culinary 2 course, week 12. This is our roast leg of lamb with the Polonaise sauce and the cauliflower. I am Chef Frank Tony Guzzo, and thank you for taking the course.